11, it wasn't when feminist theology, nor liberation, or even queer theology, but womanist theology was really taking root in Yale Divinity School. And I was able to study under some amazing theologians, Dolores Williams and Yvonne Gabara, and some other Black women who taught me about womanist theology. So these beautiful women fleshed out the idea that perhaps what we were taught as children of God was not complete. Womanist theology is a theology or a framework to, when you read biblical scripture, to consider and empower those who are oppressed, whether it is by gender or ethnicity or age or socioeconomic, so the oppressed. Universal in that way. Mary Magdalene, our person today, is probably the perfect person to consider under a womanist theological lens. So important that 2 years ago, Pope Francis declared today, this is the feast of Mary Magdalene. Church terminology here, a memorial is for a saint, but a feast is for the apostles. Those who proclaimed the good news, the first bearers. So who is Mary Magdalene? Many of us in our minds still go first to thinking a couple things that are entirely incorrect. So let me just name them. Is Mary Magdalene, was she the prostitute? Wait, are we talking about the woman who lavishly gave perfume to Jesus and wiped her hair and anointed him? Is that her? Which Mary are we talking about? I want to say that not as anywhere in Scripture, no single piece of Scripture names the woman who lavishly anointed Jesus with her tears and her perfume, her resources. And the label of prostitute, sex worker, it's far-fetched at best. And that is because our minds often like to fill the gaps of what was not said, but maybe alluded to, but just what was not said. So we know that Mary was healed, and one of the Gospels describes her as long hair, and she was lavish with her love for Jesus. So we fill in some gaps here. And it's not just our assumptions and our kind of erroneous, kind of lazy reading, but I have to say that our church fathers were not helpful in this way, and they were blatant about downplaying her role in leadership and uplifting that of Peter and Paul's. Yes, a woman in authority was threatening, particularly earlier in time. They were uncomfortable at best. And today this is what Pope Francis wrote. Mary Magdalene should no longer be exploited, but venerated for the love she and Jesus shared. So it's time to do some truth-telling and some name-calling. So, what does Scriptures actually say about Mary Magdalene? She was the first witness to the resurrection. And if that isn't important enough, she witnessed the burial of Jesus. She was witness to the crucifixion. We know that she was healed of demonic possession. All four Gospels say that Mary Magdalene was part of the inner circle of the disciples. Her commitment and understanding of the good news made her an apostle. An inner circle is what scriptures say. Yes, the Gospel of Luke describes her as having long, flowing hair. Oh, it would be so lovely. And then all the Gospels state clearly that there was an affection between her and Jesus. Jesus loved her, and she loved him. So, if we can uncloud our bias, maybe against Mary Magdalene, roll back centuries of what we've been taught that was wrong, and actually look at Scripture, we can proclaim this day that Mary Magdalene was an apostle who Jesus loved, and she deeply loved him. Mercy changed this woman's life. Love for Jesus freed her and made her thrive, empowered her certainly for a better future. It opened her up to the hope that there could be oneness or eternity with God. I think that this love that I just named has yet to be fully studied, has yet to be really contemplated, and maybe seminary next year will be all about a love theology. I have so many things I'd like to say about Mary Magdalene, and the two are these today. First, I admire what this woman went through. We are told that she was healed of demons, whatever that means, and then became a free woman in her expression and how she went around the countryside with friends. So before I even want to throw out the possibility of her employment, I want to say that in my whole 8 years of priestly ordination, the line between us, the line between a priest and a sex worker, the line between an elderly and young, between liberal, progressive, the lines between us are pretty thin compared to the importance of what we share in common, the importance of what is common among us. So 7 demons were cast out of her. And I can only imagine that within that experience, something of her self-worth, her self-understanding were somewhere in that healing process, as it is with any of us. We know she was healed, and then she was entirely welcomed to become a disciple. Can you imagine what it would have been like for her to have been welcomed like that? Then she devoted her entire self, all of her love, the scriptures say, to Jesus. I was thinking creatively about this. You know, majority of our biblical people we know through scripture, the people, they changed after the resurrection. They had that transformation after the resurrection happened, and they saw the proof, and they had that story complete. But Mary Magdalene, her transformation occurred after she was healed, and then she was consistent all the way through. She never, once healed, she never left his side. Once healed, she always was talking about God. Once healed, she preached. She taught. And when the Christ, resurrected Christ, appeared to her, it's almost like Jesus was lingering a little bit longer for her to say, you know, love lives beyond the grave. And there was a time in the early church when the gospel of Mary Magdalene was read widely. In it says these words, I, Mary, knew what love looks like. Like a lover when their partner dies. She saw and she knew that even in death, when her partner died, he was not gone. He was still present, just as God assured her God would be still present. Jesus' presence continued for her, as it does for us today. And if you've ever loved like that, you know that to be true. It's an incredible gift to have the Apostle Mary Magdalene, to understand the love of God. Another reason, the second reason I'll share today why Mary Magdalene, the Apostle, is one of my favorites, is because of this very love and their relationship, the love she had for God. I wish it was me. I wish it was you. I wish that we could give love to love itself. What a gift that could be. She's our preacher today. She preaches about mercy. She preaches about the loving relationship. It is love that sets us free. She preaches that love means that we stand by one another, never leave our side. God bless us when we get to be that woman. Mary Magdalene was brave against all kinds of restraints outside in society and within her. I imagine her saying, "Don't talk to that man. Do not compromise the integrity of his inner circle. Don't go to that trial. Do not go into that tomb. Do not proclaim it. Hide." That is not what Scripture says. Scripture says that Mary sang out love. Reminds me that our scriptures begin with this same truth. The very beginning in Eden is a vision of the kingdom with a river running through it and trees on either side. And those trees, we're told, are for the healing of the world. And all of creation is waiting to be healed and is waiting to remind us that we are loved. We walk through this place. We walk through and breathe love all around. And if you're aware that that is real, your response would be like Mary. The gospel just said, and Mary just wept and wept. I think the experience of love is awkward, and it's confusing, and it's intimate, and it's messy, and it's vulnerable, and it's full of all sorts of surprises. Loving Jesus, letting Jesus' love be right there for us, is all of those things. And this love that we are given, that we are walking through and are a part of, it's against all of our political, our societal, any of our protocols. It's against some of our own values, I would say, as it was against Mary's. Yet their love is right there, looking us in the face, seeing us, never leaving our side. Somebody once said, "Love is the ground in which you move and live and have your being." This is the message Mary Magdalene, our apostle, brings to us. And it's the message that we are yet yearning for today.